Good morning, everyone. Microphone check. Screen check. Looks like everything is working correctly here. Good. Good morning, SSFTG fam. I hope you all had a chance to rest up, get ready for the day ahead, all that fun stuff. Of course, as per the usual, if I made it so that you could actually read it, on the right side of the screen there, make sure to read through the Live Trading Morning Prep PDF. Very important to go through and understand everything that is inside there. Just a quick note for you all as well before we jump on in today. If you're watching on the YouTube side of things, the stream does have between like a 5 and 30 second delay, depending on where you're logging in from, and that will definitely impact the timeliness of what I may be talking about at any given moment. Hey, Steven, how's it going? Good morning. Just want to take a second, like we do every day as well, to thank all of our new members, subscribers, Academy students, VIPs, everyone in between. Thank you all so much for the support. I'm super excited to have you all on board. Welcome to the SSFTG family. If you aren't a member yet, you have several different options to check out if you're looking to further your trading education and career. The easiest way to start out is to join as a member on YouTube. It gets you in the chat room and a bit more behind the scenes on what's going on, or if you want more info on how we do everything and our trading approach with over 20 hours of video course material and a ton more, check out the main page at ssftg.com. So whether you're here for the very first time or you're one of the VIP vets over on the dedicated stream, welcome. I'm glad to have you trading alongside of me today, analyzing these crazy markets of ours. Let's take a look at everything, start things off, kick things off, get things rocking and rolling. First off, don't forget to grab your morning DP levels. Those are posted for you in the major 7. Nasdaq, S&P, Crude, Euro, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. Oh no, my shoes fell off. Oh no, we did like a week without stumbling over that one. Oh man, we're gonna have to start over. Anyway, they're all waiting for you this morning. It's a Friday. Give me a break. I think I get a gimme. As far as the news is concerned, we don't have a ton going on, but it looks like there's a lot going on. But Fridays always look like there's a massive amount of news happening, when in reality, it happens every week. CFTC speculative net positions, U.S. Baker Hughes oil rig count stuff. All of these are not really that important. Nothing that we really have to worry too much about. But at 10 o'clock, we do have the ISM manufacturing PMI for September that's forecasted at 59.6. That is the only large news that we have for today, but it's there at 10 o'clock. So we'll see what they want to do. The crypto markets seem to be catching a nice little rip to the upside, but let's start off and work our way from the top left, and we'll go from there. Starting off on the Nasdaq first here. Markets continuing to the downside. I mean, if the bulls were trying to get a reversal to the upside, it failed. It's not working at all. And from a confirmed perspective, we have this original drive up that the bulls tried to achieve higher. And when they tried to get that market to roll up, we had... Where's my tool? There it is. When we had this roll to the upside, incredibly top-weighted POC, slammed through it, never came back. So, I mean, when they dunk a POC like that and never come back, the market really will want to try to fill that in. It's kind of like a gap that it left behind. And the market doesn't like leaving open doors like that. That's not to say that it's going to go screaming higher right now, but, I mean, really, that is a very broad area that could cause a bit of a gravitational pull. Where it stands right now, though, obviously, we are massively to the downside. If we have this first drop down, wave 1, wave 2, nice wave 3 into a disgusting wave 4, and then finally the wave 4 into 5, still kind of grinding its way lower. But really, inside of this, we could argue that there are several little microstructures, but all things considered, this just seems to be the move. So that tells us that we're more likely towards the end of the bear trend and trying to find a low. That doesn't mean, again, to be just a buyer right out of the gates, but it does mean that we're probably going to be a bit more sideways. Sell higher up than you'd think, buy a little bit further up than you might expect it to go down, but still, buying low, the trend is still down. As far as the downside perspective goes, from the top all the way down to this morning's bottom, oh, never mind. I had a big sigh there because I thought my data was bugged, but never mind. We have our POC that got backweighted at 14,835. The market tried breaking above it, didn't do so well, but higher low, broke above, finally broke down to a new low, lower high, lower high, lower high, lost the POC, gone. So, I mean, as far as the overall structure is concerned, the bears definitely took this thing further. The way that it's moving, I mean, we've got this bearish structure that's kind of chopping around sideways. We've got the 5-leg completion. We're probably just going to go sideways for a little while. Wouldn't be a surprise to see it back to the lows, but then from the lows, bounce right back up again. Over on the S&P, similar situation. We've got that wave 1 into wave 2. Wave 2 was kind of funky and gross inside there, but eventually had a wave 3, wave 4, and now 5. And honestly, as far as the S&P is concerned, the S&P is a lot cleaner looking. It's a lot more straightforward. You've got a really obvious one move, basically, if you're looking at fibs, a 0.38, into a drive to a new low, 200%, pull back to 50% perfectly, drive down to basically 1.21 or so is around the next fib. I mean, it's all stacking up in the same spot. So here again on the Nasdaq, we have a completionary stance, or on the S&P rather. Finally, now you remember yesterday we were up here and we were talking about how this hasn't happened yet. We finally have it done, right? Job complete. That doesn't mean that it has to stop falling, but it does mean that it's going to have a harder time falling. So if you go along with this move all the way from the top to the bottom, it's going to be difficult to maintain a larger perspective. You know, the last couple days we've been building into shorts, holding on to shorts, letting them ride. Now it's going to be a bit more difficult. We don't have that larger bias anymore. Unless we get back up to the 43.65s. That's the POC that they left behind. Sheesh. Over on gold, after the spike to the upside, that did reverse the trend from the, well, from any confirmed swing perspective. That confirmed swing at the time was pretty far away, but, well, it didn't seem to matter. We've broken very aggressively above that. And now since we've gone there, what we want to see is, what were these traders doing, right? Initially, we've got to assume that the sellers were trying to get something going. And in fact, the POC tells us that that's not the case. They may, maybe selling in a little bit, but the bottom weighted POC doesn't say anything yet. So let's go after that. They break another new high. Of course, it's all bugged. Well, the POC's up at the top now. So as far as a rejection standpoint is concerned, I mean, we've got settlement, we've got the POC, we've got everything kind of stacking up where it should be. But remember, a lot of bulls, in this case, are likely trying to jump in early to the party, but a lot of bears possibly getting spooked here, right? This is a big move. Now, if we look at this last leg to the downside, I mean, there's still a ton of space. If we go from the top all the way down to the bottom, we've got a POC that's kind of resting back. Oh, no, hang on. My data's bugged. There we go. We've got the previous major POC of the bear swing, which is right here. So the fact that that's also broken, really suggesting that although it feels early, there's a shot here that the bulls have to rotate this back to the upside. How's it going, Ace and Alpine? Good morning, good morning. With gold, do you need live data to see charts that don't look super weird or non-liquid? So one thing that you do want to make sure of is that your data series is rolling over properly. If you go into your... hang on, I got to figure out where it is. Instruments? No. Hang on. Instrument list. No. I don't remember exactly where it is, but if it's showing up really weird, it's because your chart isn't merging the back data. Crude oil and gold, they roll over pretty frequently. Crude oil's monthly, gold is usually bi-monthly. So when it's in that area where it just rolls over so frequently, if you don't have it merging that data together, it'll look really crazy. It's in the control center somewhere under the database. I don't remember exactly where. If you hunt around, I'm sure you'll find it. But you just got to search for gold in that list, double click on it, and set the merge policy to merge all historical. I don't remember off the top of my head. That's as much as I remember off the top of my head. Hopefully that helps, but it's in the database somewhere and you can set it in the drop down. I'm sure there's a tutorial too, but that's what's happening. It's just not merging them together. Anyway, we've got gold, which is, you know, again, I mean, this is a major potential turning point here. It's early. Very early. As far as crude oil, next up on the list, we've got a good solid continuation to the upside still. And as far as that continuation phase, I mean, really, if we jump back to like a 60-minute chart, this thing is massively detached from the bottom. We've got that first drive up, wave 1, wave 2, disgusting looking, maybe like wave 3, but then we have a continuation up, maybe. Now we're finally starting to get into territory where wave 3 is confirmed as an impulse. So that means that wave 4 or wave 5 is on the table now. Crude oil's got more potential continuation. It took forever for them to do it, but they finally completed it. As long as they don't pull back and break 69.36, it's valid. I think, right? Hang on. High 69.33. 69.33 is the highest price in there. What's the lowest price in here? 69.39. So it is technically an impulse, even with that pullback. Oh man, getting real technical inside there. So crude oil does have some potential continuation to the upside if we're looking at it from the volume perspective. I mean, obviously there's going to be a POC basically in the middle. There's just so much back and forth that why wouldn't there be? Yeah, there it is. But if we're looking at the overall cycle from the bottom all the way up to the top, that'll give us a better perspective of where traders may be in from, or stuck from, or etc., etc. Any day now. There we go. Ooh, man, and that's back at the middle too. Hang on, the data's messed up. Yeah, still back there. So 68.44 is the major point of interest if we can get a pullback. If it pulls back to 68.44, then that totally dissolves every reason that we had for the upside impulse. It's just gone. So. Lovely LA wave indicator ruler. Yeah, for NinjaTrader 8, I've got it posted in, I believe I posted it in Discord. It's also a download in the Unit 4 section, which goes over all of that. You can download it on the right side. If you still can't find it, though, just shoot me a message on Discord. I'll get you from there. We'll get you set up one way or another. Yeah, no problem. Super useful. As far as the euro is concerned, the euro is finally at least not getting obliterated. I mean, kind of, sort of, right? It's definitely got some problems. The big thing that I would really like to see here from the euro is for the euro to decide what it wants to do. Because we have had such a massive drive to the downside that obviously some downside targets will have been hit. I mean, that goes without saying. So the fact that a lot of downside objectives have already been hit, how much steam can we really say is left for the bears? You know, like what else is there? You know, like what else can the sellers do? And I mean, we've zoomed way out, and I think that's on, yeah, it's over here. I was going to say, we got to zoom out way to a daily perspective to see anything. And this is the daily, right? We've got this monstrous head and shoulders on the euro. We've got a fairly favorable neckline, which has a break. We were already continuing down. I mean, everything is saying that this thing should fall apart. Now, that doesn't mean that we can't have one more pulse up. And in fact, one of my favorite scenarios is a third lower high. And that would also be a retest of the L1, right? So it doesn't mean that the euro can't rally back up for a little bit. But man alive, you better believe that a lot of shorts are paying attention now if they're not already short. There's a lot of interest because what's going to hold it? I mean, what else is there? You know, we've got down here 1.14, another 0.2 to go, and below that there's another wide open door until 1.1. So I mean, the euro's in a real bad place right now. The sellers, I mean, it looks like a short-term bounce would make sense. Retest the L1s, etc. But man, I just don't see the sellers stopping. We'll see what they're able to do. Anyway, over on Bitcoin, we've got Bitcoin, which is holding those higher lows like we've been talking about. We do finally have a break above the highs. And one of the things that we've been desperately needing and talking about and waiting for and etc., 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 breaking a confirmed high. Like, give us something of proof here that actually, you know, helps us a little bit. The last time we had a confirmed swing high was over here. We broke above, The higher low? Well, we don't know it's a higher low until it breaks another high. Well, it finally did it. Yes! Right, look how much resistance the market put up ahead of that break, by the way. That thing hit it like a brick wall. Finally broke its way through. Paper mache brick wall, it turns out. Now that they've got that continuation through, we have some reversal potential, right? This is the shot for it to really catch a rally up. Same goes for Ethereum, same goes for a lot of the cryptos across the board. This is what they needed. We'll see. All right. Taking a look over on the faster time frames and seeing what's going on over here. Not like there's going to be a huge difference by any means, but as far as the 5-minute is concerned, we've got that cycle to the downside that just kept going and going and going and going. Monster blow off on the lows. Looks like from the more intraday perspective, zooming in a little bit closer to what's going on, it would make a little bit more sense that this rally higher probably has some stuck shorts down here. Yeah. Wow. Holy moly, look at that volume. What? 14,600. Jeez. Okay, well, I mean, if we can get a pullback back to 14,600, that just became a massive line in the sand. Holy crap. And for those of you who have kids that you might have recognized that. What? No. Man, I love Forky. So it's like Disney Plus. Disney Plus heroes. Yeehaw. As far as the upward continuation in the near term, this still looks like it's got some more room to go. We've got wave 1, wave 2, big breakaway, wave 3. They're forming wave 4. Probably going to be a little bit choppy on 4 going into the open, but overall completionary assumption would be up to the 5s. Where are they going to go? If we go backward a little bit further here, we've got wave 1, 2. That's just really disgusting looking. 3, 4, and 5. So if they are going to correct back up, I mean, we're already kind of back in that zone. And even if we were to ratchet this down further to create impulse context, we're there already. So, Nasdaq's got some issues. We'll see if they can break through. How's it going, laddie? Good morning, good morning. So far, the market just kind of chopping around, not doing a ton. Fortunately, crude oil looks like it got the majority of its sideways, range-bound, really nice price action for scalpers inside of there already done. Now we're just sort of waiting. We'll see what they want to do here as we go into the open. Give me 2 seconds here. I'll be right back. Do BRB. 2 minutes. My cat's going crazy, and I don't know what his deal is. So give me 2 seconds. Be right back. All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Seeing a nice little pop on crude oil. Would really like it to prove a bit more than that, but it's there. Got the open right around the corner here in about 8 minutes or so. Still got some time. Market's going a bit sideways. Gold seems like it's finding some resistance off the highs. Crude oil popping back up to the previous settlement. If we're looking at the bigger picture, again, just to kind of gauge the directionality of things. Unfortunately for the Nasdaq, directionality is a bit difficult because, well, there's not much left to do. We've already got a completion of the 5 wave. Not to say that 5 waves can't just keep going, but it's more likely that we see a corrective phase inside of here that goes, internally a 5 wave structure, which is what's happening right now. Usually that takes place back into wave 4. It's already kind of hit it, but troublesome spot. Crude oil breaking above this area. I mean, the POC's back in the middle. A little bit awkward. So when you have it imported, you use it in the drop down. So the little pencil icon at the top, it's E-Wave down here. I have mine set to a hotkey because I hotkey everything. But by the way, I just happened to notice your name because I saw the reply to is really long. I love it. Yeah, protesting. It's funny. All right. Let's see here. Not really a whole lot going on so far. We're going to have to give it some time. And here it sits. Man, not a whole lot of anything happening anymore. All right. Well, we'll give it a little bit of time and see what it wants to do. Hey, Vicky, how's it going? Good morning. Crude oil with a bit more solid continuation to the upside, trying to get through that that major area of interest. If we're going from the top all the way down to the bottom, which technically was there, we're retesting that 74.99 POC area. So we've got a little bit more work to do, but if we can get above this, then it's game time. Now, if we combine this a little bit further forward, obviously the POC... Ooh, I stand corrected. I was going to say, obviously, the POC is shifted down by now. It didn't. It's still up at 74.98. Wow, okay. Never mind. That makes it even more important. Man, that Nasdaq rally up just looks absolutely insane. All happened at 7. Great. hardly see how that's fair. Pretty slow so far this morning. I mean, it's understandable. It feels like all the action's already kind of happened. Hopefully the open will bring something. 928 right before the open hits. 928 is the last time or last chance for modification of at the open orders. Usually a bit of volatility then, especially after some big overnight movement. $9.28 comes and goes and doesn't really do much. First day of October. So far, just kind of hanging out, not really doing much of anything. A little bit calm, a little bit quiet. It's all good. I hear you talking about YouTube members have a community area. I can't seem to find where. Oh, yeah, so when you're a member on YouTube, if you go into the... So here, let me do it from scratch. $9.28. $9.29, right around the corner. So if you go to youtube.com/slingshotfutures, if you're a member and you go to the communities area, inside here you'll see things that are members only. So as an example, members only to the links, members only to different stock chart ideas, stuff like that. So if you're a member and you're logged in, then you just go to the community area and that's where everything is. Usually posts like 1 or 2 things a day. More along the stock side of things, but anything of interest really. That's where you go. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, no problem. Alright. 10 seconds. Here's the open. I think. Jeez. Hello? Is anybody out there? Slow. Bulls catching a little bit of a lift here on the Nasdaq, trying to drive the market back up. And here it sits. All right. Bulls climbing up back towards the highs, but having a little bit of trouble into the 30s on the Nasdaq. Pulling back a bit harder. Bulls could be looking to re-up on a slightly nicer dip here. Although favorably on the Nasdaq, it'd be closer to like the 700s. S&P is still pressuring the highs. Nice little pulse down into the lows. This is the area that we were looking for the continuation bulls if they're going to be kicking this back to the upside. As far as the upside continuation goes for the momentum higher, we still have 3 minutes left on the candle. Ooh, nice little flush back to settlement as well. If the market just jumps where it is now, then we've got a couple zones of interest initially, but honestly, bigger targets up into the 13s or even the 22s kind of make sense. Looking for the bull's continuation pulse back to the upside. Initial objective is going to be pushing back through the 7s, but if we start having some difficulty in and around settlement, then could be looking for potentially a little bit of a different play, but we still have 2 minutes left on the candle, which is why I like this area. Plenty of time. First objectives can now widen out a bit more towards like the 8 or 850s if they can get a pulse back to the upside. Hovering around the settlement area, not really doing much of anything. S&P also just kind of hovering. We've got 1 minute left on the 5-minute bar. One extra little pulse down underneath the lows. So they did drop down a little bit further than I really wanted them to, although I do have a little bit of ammo to try to modify my average in a more beneficial location, so it's okay. Got 30 seconds left on this candle. Five-minute bar closes. Very heavy bear to the downside with the volume at the bottom. 76. Next area up, I think we should be able to get back up into the 705s, but really, my upside objective would be back into the 740s if they can make it. Nice continuation pulse. See if they can follow through with a bit more. Although, usually once we hit this area, this is where the original buyers started coming in. We start seeing that break-even slide. So, I'm not necessarily surprised to see it pull back just a bit. But I like this as an opportunity for buyers to simply reload a bit more. I've got to see the bulls show up to the party, though, because this is that reversal above 700 that they've got to keep going. Market sliding back down into the zone of interest for bulls to defend if they're going to defend the lows. We've got about 2.5 minutes left on this first 5-minute bar. Sellers are trying to get the bear bar to trigger down because obviously we're holding the 700 area as a zone of resistance. Bulls want it to get triggered back to the upside and cause a reversal. Given where we are location-wise, and the last bear bar closing back under the POC, the probability would be more on the side of the bears at the moment, yeah. It's lower probability going for longs, which is why I've got to try to string this out for wider targets. We have 1.5 minutes left on this candle. Gold has got one crazy looking wiki whatever going on. The S&P relatively bearish bar trying to follow through a bit more. Lightening a little bit of risk while the market's pushing back down through the lows. Now again, at the moment, this is obviously invalidating my purpose for the long, so I just have to manage that portion of things. Now, I still have the S&P for the downside as well. But, at the moment, if we can get a pulse back to the upside, it's still favorable. I still like the rotation back to the upside, and this has enough meat on it to try to get it going. It's just the rotation location, man, that's a tough one, is creating a bit of a troublesome spot. As far as the S&P to the downside, the 4308 area would be a supposed zone of interest, I guess. But they've broken so many different structures that I've got to look back at this in that new high that they just created and see if that changes things. POC up at the top. Yeah, that definitely changes things. I'm going to start reducing a little bit into the Nasdaq. There's too much open-ended risk if it starts wanting to break away from here. Well, the majority of the POC rejection just solidified on the candle that just closed on the 5-minute chart. Before, like with the S&P, they already had that rejection on the top. Like it was already sort of job done. Where the bulls had sort of, they're slipping a little bit. Whereas the Nasdaq, they were kind of churning back up and down, and it wasn't really sure decisive which way it wanted to go until this bar, which now just closed. So now we've got a bit more proof that the bulls are wrong. Which is why I'm starting to lighten the load a bit more aggressively. Now, I still like this as a long, but the next zone doesn't happen until the 14,600s, which is why, you know, with a 50-point drop underneath, I'm not going to be holding full size. No thanks. I would rather eat the loss now while it's potentially small, and it doesn't feel like it's small, but in about 20 minutes it might. Yeah, with VIP membership, if you go into the VIP zone, there's a button for the one-on-one consultation and all of that. That will get you set up on all kinds of different options and things that are available. Otherwise, shoot me an email in what you're kind of looking to do. That way, we don't have to go like over the top or anything crazy, and we can kind of figure out what the best approach would be. That'd be a much easier way to do it. Yeah, no problem. Still a lot of volume building up in these lows. Excuse me. I'm going to reduce a little bit more. Man, hang on one second. There, jeez. They might be able to get just a little bit lower. My average is beginning to get a little more favorable now that I've eaten some of the loss, but I've only got 2 right now, so I've got to... It's going to be hard to compensate for the loss if we don't start scaling in a little bit here. But it's just not really in a zone of interest for me to do anything yet, so I've just got to let it sit. I'm definitely happy that in exiting some of those previous positions as a loss, though, because this would have gotten a lot worse if it didn't. Nice little point down here of interest for a potential little bounce. Might be a nice little point for the market to start jostling positions a little bit. Gotten it now where the majority of it is down at the lows. Size-wise, it's okay. There's still some bear candle gapping to the downside, so again, I don't want to be too aggressive. But over the last move down, that creates downside potential objectives of like 89.25. Well, we'll see what they want to do, but still feels a bit early. The S&P's testing settlement. The S&P also has a relatively decent drive to the downside within that move. It offers up some nice areas of interest there at around like the 34 halves. Market's just kind of hovering right now. Trying to see if they can get a bit more follow through. None of the bounces have really been sizable enough to do anything with. Nice continuation up so far on the Nasdaq. The euro looks like it's got a man wearing a crown of thorns up there. Holy cow. That is nasty looking up there. S&P has an area of interest for shorts at 0375. They missed my entry by 2 ticks and have already gone down to the scalpers area of interest. Fantastic. Thanks, S&P. Jeez, rinse and repeat of yesterday, huh? Okay. I didn't get a fill on the S&P. It came 2 ticks away from the entry. Yeah. The first scalper's objective was down to the 300s. I mean, it already took it off. Beautiful bullish continuation back up. See if they can follow through with a bit more gumption. Yeah, and I would agree 100% that they were searching for the breakout point. I think they might not even necessarily be done, but, well, for right now, we'll just kind of play it a bit closer to the chest. Got 10 o'clock around the corner. That's the next news announcement. It's a lot of wicks on the top of these candles. S&P, I don't mind it still, but I'm going to space the orders out a bit just to kind of favor the air of caution. Market just bouncing around a little bit of back and forth. The S&P couldn't get the entry filled. Nasdaq still waiting to see what they want to do with this low down here. Nice little pop for scalpers to take a bit off on, but the follow-through objectives are going to be a bit further up in the 57s or so. I would really like to see it go a bit further. Just kind of gaming this area down here a little bit while it's allowing it. Big POC shift down at 639.75. Nothing else is really happening. All the other markets are just kind of at a standstill. Come on, Nasdaq. Just needs a nice little pop up through these low 40s. Seems to be a bit of resistance here while they're trying to create this POC. The S&P also has a nice little zone of interest, but it still hasn't gone far enough to actually get a fill of anything. I could not get a fill on the S&P to save my life, man. 5 minutes until 10. Market's still hovering, but bears seem like they're still pressuring down. 600s, that big POC is next. S&P is just testing patience. If crude oil can maintain a bit more bullishness back up, then that may have just been a washout for a continuation higher, but we need a bit more proof. Still just can't seem to get the S&P up far enough. 10 o'clock right around the corner. You got about 3 minutes. Feel free to get those last questions in before we go into the extended session, and then we'll rock and roll from there. One minute until news. Things are starting to get a little whippy. Of course, I still haven't been able to get anything on the S&P. That one still continues to elude me. Crude oil not really getting enough up. 30 seconds till news. Nice initial pulse to the upside for the bulls to try to get something going. Holy guacamole, we got some volatility. The S&P missed all of my orders on that short. By 1 tick. Again. It's uncanny how well I can find those areas by 1 tick, you know? Jeez, oh Pete's. Nice continuation. Reduced most of the S&P back at break even, now just maintaining for a hedge, really. There's so much volatility right now. It's crazy. Still playing back and forth off of the POC. Given what all of this back and forth and everything that's happening, I don't really want to transition in the middle of it. So I'm just going to keep the morning session going and not worry about having to swap over to the extended session for this time. Just there's too much happening right now. So we'll just keep it rolling. Here, let me Now you can actually see what's going on. There we go. The rejection off the downweighted POC at 639.75 could cause some problems. Crude oil is... we're finally getting at least a little bit more up. That's going to help it. S&P just kind of jerking back and forth a little bit, but operating as intended as a hedge. Sheesh. Nice heavy bear bar there on the Nasdaq for the sellers to gain continuation down. It's back below the POC, but it's directly into the last POC at 600. I don't know. That seems like a really interesting spot for traders to set up a possibility of a trap, but Euro catching a gigantic dive to the downside. Nice pop back to the upside on the Nasdaq. See if they can actually follow through this time. I'm going to take this unique opportunity that the S&P is offering for a break even when I've only got 2 left on the Nasdaq. We'll see how much further they want to get this thing going, but the average is in a pretty good spot. I'd like to see if I can grab a few more on a dip back to the 610s though. If they're going to catch a V-bottom trap, this is the area. Nice little dip add area for buyers to try to get a continuation pop. Nice little continuation pop usage. See if they want to follow through a bit further. Still forming around that POC at 625. See if they can get something a bit nicer going here. Or if they want to keep staying underneath that POC. Didn't get the fill on that extra one there. Dang it. Got 30 seconds left on the candle. Uh-oh. They got a lot of volatility coming in here. How do they want to play it? Market tried to break away a little bit there. Now having some trouble. They're just sort of hovering. We'll see if they want to follow through. Weak bull bar with wicks underneath definitely doesn't demonstrate a whole lot, but still, inside objectives at around the 630s would make sense. Market's just kind of ping-pong in the area back and forth. It's not really doing much. Man, I tell you, if I put a limit order on this thing, it 100% is going to go one tick from my exit. Like, every frickin' time, man. This is getting ridiculous. Alright, give me that ups. Come on now, Nasdaq. Get them Jordans on. Give me some good jumps. See if we can go a little bit further up. There we go. Nice extra follow through. We're breaking through the POC, trying to break through the POC. A lot of resistance up here in the 35s on this initial pushback. Still hovering. Still not really doing much of anything. Waiting for the excess continuation, which hasn't really happened. It's just been all wicks up on the top here. Got 2 minutes left on this candle. Still some time. wow. That jerked up fast. Holy crap. Nice area for a bit more follow through. Now we can see if they can let this last one rip. Finally worked my way down to an average at 607.75 after a heck of a lot of pain on the way down. Jeez. Now go, Nasdaq. Probably one of the most interesting things I've ever watched, managing through a position like that. It's incredible. Oh, well, yeah, it's, I mean, there's a lot that's going on. One of the big things that you really have to keep in mind when you're going through and you're looking at the risk and all of that is exactly that, just modifying the risk reward, always making sure that your risk reward's in check. When you're adding into it, making sure that your targets are modified to a new risk reward. When you're adding into it again, make sure that your risk is in the right place. I mean, it's always a game of back and forth like that. As long as you can stay on top of the risk reward, you'll be all right. But it's not an easy game by any means. And this current candle, man, we close another bar under the POC looking like that. That could cause some issues. Now, my trade plan still tells me that I need to be looking to buy into this next dip. So more continuation to the downside with a big slide and an overdrive pop. I feel like I can't put limit orders on on my charter. It's going to go a tick away. Doesn't look like the management game's done yet. Going on 1016, not a ton else going on. I'm still looking to build in for a larger wick-based type candle here. Market pushing back down towards the larger moving average cluster. The S&P also diving down more towards the previous structural support, but we don't quite hit it yet until like the low 80s. It's got a bit to go yet. not really any other news or anything else happening today, so from the news perspective, there's not really a whole lot to worry about there. As far as crude oil is concerned, we are dipping back into a zone of interest on crude now. It'd be down in the 75s. Of course, now that I put a limit order there on crude oil, that means that it's going to miss me, you know, but... Sure enough, man, crude oil went down to 75.01. I mean, I guess my order's right on top of a major round number, but still. Continuing to try to grind its way down. Crude oil, man. Crude oil, again. So close, yet so far away. Nice continuation pulse to the upside. See if they can follow through this time around. And here we sit, just kind of hovering. NQ looks as a perfect five-wave sequence, looking at that wave 4 pullback now. Yep. Yeah, and we're kind of in the middle, if you kind of zoom out as well, sort of in the middle of like a wave 3 on the way down. Crude. Man, I can't catch a break on crude. All right, well, feel free to get those questions in. We'll get those covered for you while we're sitting here getting just vindicted by crude. Crude oil pulling back a little bit, getting a bit closer. Still no fill, though. Tested and no fill. Fantastic. As far as upside objectives go for crude oil, we've got a relatively nice little array of an area. Market just kind of going sideways. Still not a whole lot going on. All right, Nasdaq, let's see what you got. Crude oil also catching a little bit of a bounce. First objective at around 08. And with as vindictive as this thing has been, I would rather do that. There we go. First objective off on crude. Second objective's a little bit further up. Nasdaq's got some room to go yet. I'd like to see it breach above the 69s if it can, but, I mean, really, we haven't seen any emphasis from the bulls yet. Nice quick snap back up on the Nasdaq. Crude oil also seeing a nice extra pop. Incredible spot if this thing can keep going for a little bit here. I mean, as far as the average is concerned, it's going to be hard to get much better than that if we can get a reversal. And again, just as a side note, the whole reason I've been fighting this thing all friggin' morning is because of all of the potential support on the continuation leg up. But the problem was, it just fell apart. So, it fell apart with me holding it, unfortunately, so I had to manage it on the way down. Still managing it. I'm going to narrow it in a little bit closer, like 24s or so. Market's just hovering, going on to 1030, and still floating around. Give it a little bit of time to see what it wants to do here, but the bears are still trying to push the market to the downside and get those objectives. We have broken through the 600s as well, so... we'll see if they want to get this drive going or not, but it might take a while at this point. All right, well, I'm not seeing any other questions coming in, so that's going to do it. As far as the overall day is concerned, I definitely got pushed back on the Nasdaq. That made it a lot more difficult than I really wanted it to be, but that's fine. It's part of trading. I still like this dip area. Now, if we start breaking down much more aggressively, like if we lose the bottom here, what I'm looking for is the completionary move for this to go sideways and basically do this. Right? Now, I was originally looking for it to do this with a little bit higher, but now that we've slid all the way down to the base, I'm still looking for that bounce. It's just we have to structure it a little bit differently. The average is in a fantastic spot for that. Rotation back up at minimum would be up to like the 96.75s, maybe a little bit further up to the 621s. Then beyond that would be back up to 76. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. And from there, maybe back up to the highs again. We'll have to wait and see how far it wants to go. Honestly, I'd rather structure this like that. There. All right, well, that's going to do it. Just kind of waiting, but that's the projected idea of what I'm looking for here, right around there. It would be nice to see if this can rotate and keep rolling into possibly over the weekend and maybe even into next week for a really long-term big rotation, but we'll see. Otherwise, though, that's going to do it for today. If I miss any questions, feel free to shoot those via email, and I'll get those covered for you. As far as this is concerned, I've got it kind of laid out what I'm looking to do, but if anything changes, like always, we'll update it in the Discord chat. There's probably not going to be much changes from here. Just got to give it some time. Is what it is now. But anyway, that'll do it. Enjoy, rest up. Hopefully you had a great week of trading. I'm still sitting on this one for a little while. Probably will be for a little while. Otherwise, though, enjoy the rest of the day, rest up, and like we always say, too, going into the weekend, make sure to take some time off, right? Get some time away from the market. Spend some time doing something else. We make more decisions in one day than most people make in a week, some people in a month. So, I mean, realistically, we've got to give ourselves some mental time to rest and come back on Monday ready to rock and roll. So, have a great one. Enjoy the weekend, and we will see you all on Monday, all right? Talk to y'all later. Thanks.